Welcome to Michael Pott's F1, everything Formula One, but from a photographer's point of view. Round 9, the Canadian Grand Prix. What a difference a race makes. One moment you're on top of the world, you're winning your home race in Monaco, your teammate is on the podium celebrating with you, the prince is showering you with champagne, and then in the very next race, both cars fail to finish. This was a dramatic fall in performance from Ferrari. In the press conference on Thursday, all the buzz was about how Ferrari was going to challenge Red Bull for the title. And this circuit was going to be one of those that favoured the Scarlet cars over Max Verstappen. This was going to be another chance for them to close the gap. After practice on Friday, even though it was interrupted with a lot of rain, Charles was ahead of Max. And then on Saturday, everything went wrong for Ferrari. The sun was out for free practice, and Ferrari just didn't turn up. And while rain did threaten to interrupt qualifying, the track was largely dry. But neither driver could get out of Q2. It was disastrous. Then, in the race, Carlos crashed, and Charles had engine issues. The only silver lining was that Charles's engine issues happened here and not at the previous race. All that hard work by Ferrari to close that gap to Red Bull over the past few races was blown away by this double DNF. The next few races are not going to help them either, with Red Bull expected to be favourites in all three events in the upcoming triple header. Somehow, Ferrari have to dig deep to come back from this disappointment. The circuit Gilles Villeneuve is one of the most beautiful that we go to all year. It's built on a man-made island with earth extracted from the city's metro construction. The island is lush and green, and it's a real challenge for the drivers who do love racing here. This, coupled with the changeable weather, where it was sweltering hot when I arrived on Wednesday. Then we had a massive thunderstorm with hail that covered the ground like snow, and during the race the conditions changed considerably, from hot to cold to wet, warm to sunny. I was constantly adding and removing layers. This is a city that truly can deliver 4 seasons in one day. I took a truck tour on Saturday when it was sunny when we started down the main straight, but by turn 1 the rain had started and it was torrential by turn 4. Then it completely cleared up as we finished the lap. All of this change does give you some very, very good photographic opportunities. Nikon had lent me their 8 to 15mm lens. This is a fisheye, and I had a lot of fun taking photographs with it on the grid. Taking shots of drivers in their cars as they get wheeled to their grid position. Here is Daniel Ricciardo with his awesome maple syrup helmet. You can even see my legs in the shot, that's how wide it is. I did try some slow shutter speed shots of cars in the pit lane, and that was kind of interesting. You can see it was raining a little bit here because I've got a few spots on the lens. This retails for around €1,500. It is F-mounted, but it is a very cool lens and you can have a lot of fun with it. We did have some transfer news before the start of the race weekend. Sergio Perez has signed a new 2-year deal with Red Bull. He didn't celebrate it in the best possible way on track. He had a poor qualifying, which meant he was out in Q1 for the second week in a row. And for the second week in a row, he was involved in a first lap incident. This time with a pair of Alpines. Gasly was launched in the air, faced the wrong way, and remarkably, both Alpines finished in the points from this disastrous start. The first time the team's done that this year. Unfortunately for Perez, he was able to continue, but did crash and retire later. The other news is that Yuki Tsunoda will be at Racing Bulls next year. This is a very well-deserved signing. He's had a stellar year, until this race, where despite looking good for points, he made a mistake and crashed out. So the 2 Red Bull Racing Bull drivers that had their contracts extended failed to finish. Out of the 4, only Daniel Ricciardo hasn't got his future confirmed yet. He did have a very good race, but there's still a toss-up between him or Liam Lawson, who really impressed last year and is hungry for his chance in Formula 1. We do expect to hear news from Carlos Sainz before the next race in Spain. He could be driving for either Audi or Williams. Williams had a bit of a weekend to forget. Logan crashed out of the race after looking quite good in the earlier part of the weekend. Then Alex was knocked out by a crashing Sainz when he was in the points. So this was a double DNF for Williams, both cars badly damaged and no points. That is exactly what the team couldn't afford to happen. We do have a very small paddock here, and it's a lot more of a fans race, by contrast to the celebrities and the glamour we had in Monaco. One of the highlights is this poutine stand. And for those who are not familiar, poutine is French fries with gravy and some rubbery cheese. It actually tastes a lot better than I made it sound. The track isn't the easiest venue to access because it's on an island. There's limited access, only a few bridges for all the fans to arrive on. This can get very congested and there was a lot of long waiting times. The 350,000 fans who attended the race weekend really had to make a good effort, but they were rewarded with probably one of the best races of the year. Ferrari had knocked themselves out of the mix, but a new contender had emerged. Mercedes, who had been offbeat all year, looked immense, especially Lewis in practice. This is one of his favourite tracks. He's won here more than anyone else, and this was the venue that he won his first F1 race. Fashion-wise, his outfits included the sequins top by D2 and this cool knitted top by Magliano. But regardless how good he looked, it was his teammate that stole the show with pole position on Saturday. It was a blinding lap. George is known as Mr. Saturday because of his ability to deliver outstanding performances over one lap. But that lap was matched exactly to 3 decimal places by Max Verstappen. The two tied. This was the first time that's happened since 1997, where Jacques Villeneuve, the son of Gilles, who the track is named after, Michael Schumacher and Heinz-Harald Frentzen all matched times in Jerez. But it wasn't just the first 2 that were fast here, because this was the closest top 6 we've had in Formula 1 history during qualifying. George was given pole position because he logged his time first. I shot qualifying from the Wall of Champions. This is the final corner of the lap. It's called the Wall of Champions because so many famous champions have crashed their cars into this wall. It's quite a difficult approach with very, very fast change of direction coming off a very long straight. I got this shot of Lance whacking the wall in Q1. Remarkably, his car was okay, and he went on to finish the lap, and he qualified 9th, which was a very good result for the hometown driver. It is rather exhilarating photographing here because the cars are moving fairly quickly, and as you can see, they get quite close to the wall. You too could have this view with an F1 experience ticket in the Champions Club Rouge stand. It's probably the closest grandstand to the action on any track that we go to all year. McLaren were also right in the mix for qualifying, with Lando 3rd and Oscar 4th. Lando would go on to finish 2nd after another brilliant result for the team. And McLaren has been on the podium in the last 5 races, which is better than both Red Bull and Ferrari. But really, this was Norris's race to win. Yes, he started in 3rd, but he managed to pass both Max and George, and he was pulling away until Logan crashed. And then his advantage evaporated. He did briefly lead the race again, stopping later than Max and George for slick tyres as the track was drying up. But because of the configuration of the track, the pit exit is longer than in most other tracks. It's also a lot wetter because it has significantly less traffic than the main circuit. So by the time he came out in front of Max, his tyres were no longer warm, and the Dutchman had the grip advantage. And that is an advantage he would take to the end of the race, winning his 60th Formula 1 Grand Prix, and it was a mega drive by Max. The team were nowhere during Friday practice. He had mechanical issues during the weekend. This pattern is becoming a bit of a trend. Red Bull starting off slowly on Friday, then hitting their strides on Saturday and coming out on top on Sunday. But this wasn't just a dominant Max win. He had so much to do. Being passed by both the McLaren and the Mercedes, his team really had to fight back. They got the pit stop timing perfect, but it was an epic fight for the win, and one that you could see made him so happy to have done. But Max is now having to fight tooth and nail for every single victory. It's brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me on this look back at the Canadian Grand Prix. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Our next stop is Barcelona, so until then, goodbye.